I'll be back from the break. This is Smart Means Business. We're off into our last hour of the show that clearly gives you business updates every early morning as you kickstart off your business day. And your host, Joram Paul Sonko, in here. And of course, as we are heading into this particular hour, just to remind you that you can invest in bonds and securities with Zabo. Zabo, which is a platform by Altex East Africa, says do something new. Use the USSD code *292# and obviously follow the prompts for all that available on Uganda's financial market space. With just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you can invest in bonds and securities. It will be that easy for you and quite easier for those that you will be engaging with. Now, Zabu says that if you have no account yet, you can use your NIN to quickly invest in these particular bonds, or use your NIN to register an account. After registration, you'll be able to invest in the next 24 hours or so. These markets open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. The markets don't operate on weekends and on public holidays. So you should choose your investment journey right with Zabo. My money, my future. Baltic East Africa, do something new. Now, besides that, we look at the SMB Insight. And our SMB Insight this morning is literally discussing Kenya and Uganda's bilateral relations. How far have they been, and how important does this have to say on to the East African community development, and also the development of both countries in regards to trade, investment, and business at large? We have more in the SMB Insight.
Kenya-Uganda trade engagement as of now, between the period of Kenyatta and now President William Ruto, is moving on well. I am aware that President Ruto, having a business background, during the Independence Day, he had an engagement with the President Museveni, and he led a delegation of more than 10 ministers and technical people, including traders and private investors from Kenya. Private sector players came here on the 9th of Independence. They had a bilateral meeting with President Museveni to discuss issues of trade, industry. While at Kololo, President William Ruto talked about exploiting the natural resource like the phosphate. He talked about the fertilizer industry, he talked about the iron ore, and talks about the energy within the East Africa in order to promote jobs. I am aware that there is a high-powered delegation from the government of Uganda to have a follow-up and to conclude a bilateral agreement in those areas that President William Ruto talked about. And that power delegation might be traveling any time this week to have a follow-up in order to boost trade and movement of cargo and people within the region. So all is well and all is promising between President Museveni and President William Ruto. But the problem is that the economies of East Africa are really now kind of debt stressed. I am aware that Kenya is at almost 82%. Rwanda is borrowing money from commercial banks for recurrent operation. Similar to Kenya, I think Zambia is defaulting on its debt payment. For so far, Uganda, we are stable, managing our fiscal policy, but we need to be very cautious. We need to downsize public administration, we need to cut unnecessary expenditure and invest in areas that will promote growth. And we also need to clear private sector debt. As we speak now, most commercial banks are wary. They do not want to lend on voucher to government contracts. Like if you are a private sector, you have a road, you have schools to build under government. The commercial banks are asking for additional security and high interest rate because there is high level of default by private sector to date based on contract offered by government of Uganda. That needs to be cleared in order to boost the trade. Thank you.
Right now, Uganda has a bilateral relationship in terms of trade and actually politics between Uganda and Kenya. Kenya predominantly benefit almost 80 to 90% of Uganda's political benefit because the incumbent presidents of Kenya at least extracted most of the tactics to go through the vigorous elections campaigns and the entire victory based on entirely President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. However, that's, I think, the main export that Uganda exports to Kenya. It's only politics that is beneficial and non-monetary, because it's not computed in monetary terms. However, when it comes to the actual relationship, socially is okay, but when we are to measure the favorable or the unfavorable balance of trade payments position, then Uganda is an beneficiary into the relationship. Given that we have a broader market of the agricultural produce in Kenya, almost to 70 to 80%, all our agricultural produce are exported to Kenya, but they are being exported in raw form, in primary form. Where a commodity is exported in primary form, it is of lower value, and the marginal profit incurred is actually undefined. So that's the bitter part that Uganda is going to suffer. So there is much need for Uganda to add value into its agricultural produce, and it may be to export in secondary form. If we are exporting maize, why should we export maize seedlings or seeds? We need to export maize flour, and actually even the bran. It does not draw a good relationship of benefit to export maize at a cheaper price, given our inflated currency. Then you import maize bran at a higher cost. You import the poultry feed at a higher cost. Such a balance of trade is unfavorable for Ugandans. When you look at the eggs, it would be better if we added the value and exported the bread. If we exporting coffee, it would be better if we exported the real grained coffee for beverage, ready to be taken and consumed as beverage. But mere coffee, where we are exporting the coffee, then Kenya and Azam Company Limited imports here the energy drinks at a higher expensive value. Then the balance of trade position and the payment for Uganda becomes unfavorable. But for the case of Kenya becomes favorable, because for it buys raw materials at a cheaper cost, adds value within their own country, where they even create a lot of employment opportunities. It becomes an employment pool for Kenyans, uses its currency, which is stable in East Africa and even globally, then Kenya has to benefit more than Uganda. I believe Uganda's challenge is not about how much is gained from a specific commodity exported, but it's all about getting money. Ugandans are fond of selling expensively whatever is available in order to earn money. And they are ready to sell at whichever price available without any consideration of any other factors that would affect the profit margin. So in Uganda, it's not true that we have plenty of the agricultural produce that are needed to be exported. But it's just because of poverty, unemployment, and the people, the public, whichever crop that comes on scene is being defined as a cash crop. That's why you see the maize has turned into cash crop, cassava has turned into cash crop, potatoes has turned into cash crop, the milk and the eggs, all of them have been exported in order to amass wealth and gain money. But there is always scarcity, shortage of supply of commodities here. We have the scenario of sugar, where the sugar production has gone higher. The volumes of production is higher, but the sugar consumption and supply at the local market is always meager and scarce, hence creating a vacuum of exploitation and selling it expensively, where the demand rises higher than the actual would be supply. So I think the motives of Ugandans need to change, to specialize into specific commodities that are valuable and marketable and can amass profit on world market. Those ones should be specialized at and be specified for sale. Then other production, which is locally consumed in here, must also be reserved for home consumption in order also to cater for the hygiene, not only catering for monetary gains.
Happy New Year to all the Ugandans who are watching me on Smart 24 TV. The coming in of President Samuel William Ruto as the 5th President of Kenya, our people on the border have expectations that he's going to improve business within the cross-border fraternity. Because first of all, President Samuel William Ruto is a businessman. And before he came in, we had the challenges that the government of the president who was there by that time was shifting goals in the trade agreements. And that's why you saw Uganda face a challenge of having a blockage of maize, grey maize that was going to Kenya. A letter that was written by just a commissioner of Kenya Cereal Board. At the same time, Kenya's government did not stop there. It had to block the milk that was going to Kenya without a reason. And by that time, the minister was called Amunya. Kenya did not stop at that. It also stopped raw cane to go to its country. But at the same time, Uganda was importing Irish potatoes from Kericho, and moreover, Kenyan farmers use fertilizers. But Kenya was giving an excuse that Uganda will use fertilizers. Moreover, our crops and our cereals are organically grown. Therefore, I see a lot of improvement in the coming in of Kenya Kwanza government. Because when President Samuel Ruto came in, Kenya had stopped export of eggs to its country. But immediately, he lifted that. And there is a booming business in the poultry sector. And also at the same time, the president in office by now spoke that his major aim is promote the integration of East African cooperation and to promote trade within the partner states, which we see has started well. There is free movement of people and goods, like not how it has been. And also there is a lot of immigration of people from Kenya to Uganda and Uganda to Kenya. What we see as a challenge, that the one border stop point, we should stop asking Ugandans who are crossing to Kenya to have travel permits, border travel permits, that are charged almost 15 to 10,000, like what the president directed on the border of Congo some few days ago. Because this 10,000 that they charge me, Macho, a Ugandan, who has a sister married in Kenya, because going I pay 10,000, coming back I pay 10,000, that is a lot of money. That money can be a capital to somebody doing small-scale cross-border trade. And another thing that we need President William Ruto to help us to cancel all the bans that were put on raw sugar cane, because Mumias as a factory has not enough raw material, and also to ban and lift also the ban that was put on the dairy products, the raw milk and the meat and the beef, that should be lifted, because Kenya lacks a lot. And also, many requirements that were put on the cereals should be at least eased, because the way Kenya has stuck on these requirements has made its country now to begin talking about a language of GMOs. And GMO, we believe, it is not safe to enter the East African region by now. And if those regulations will be eased, we have a lot of maize, we have a lot of simsim, we have a lot of soya and cassava that can go to Kenya and help our brothers and sisters, because these boundaries that were put up by colonialists, we believe are not the solution to increase on the economy of the East African region, which has a big market.
Members of Parliament having their say on matters to do with the East African bilateral relations, which they do believe President William Ruto, who is, I would say, the newest president amongst the other partner states, should be able to address some of those, especially between Uganda and Kenya, and of course, ensuring that trade moves on smoothly. Now, joining us inside this morning is Edison Mumbere, who is really going to be breaking it up for us to understand more in regards to the same matter to do with bilateral relations within East Africa. There's some shortcomings in there. There's some few things that need to be addressed, and of which Edison Mumbere is working on it in business today. Edison, good morning.
Good morning, Sonko. Today we'll have a couple of stories that we're going to work on tonight. But today we're going to set on the bilateral relationship between the East African member states. For example, we have Uganda, we have Tanzania, and we have Congo, and even others, Rwanda, Burundi. They are all under ESC. This is East African Community. But now there's still some other problems that are happening within these two other countries. You've had MP talking about the travel ban, the travel bans,
The charges at the border post,
the entry fee.
the entry fees.
Last time I was in Kasese district, where I happened to come from, in Bondo, the border. And when a Ugandan is crossing to Congo, there is a fee that you must pay, 10,000. You pay, I know they call it a visa or something, but it's an entry fee. Now we're asking why? If East Africa or if Congo is under the East African Community, and Uganda is also in the East African Community, why they impose that fee on me? So where is the integration? Again, so these are some of the problems that we are facing at the moment, and this is the story that I'm going to work on tonight.
And of course, you've highlighted the fact that even the MPs have mentioned that it should not, there shouldn't be any charge whatsoever for someone who's traveling from Uganda, let's say, to the neighboring country, because we are part of the same. But with your further interaction with some of the people, you get to realize, with your observation, like you said, at Pondwe, were the Ugandans okay with paying this money, or most of them still had issues?
Automatically, they are not okay with it. I talked to some of them. I talked to one, Mr. Machozi. He's a Ugandan. He's a Ugandan. He always does business from Uganda and Congo. Remember when the president went to Mpondwe?
What happened
last year?
One border post.
One border post there. Pondwe. The president of Uganda went to His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And when he reached there, these Ugandan people, business people, reported to him. They brought him information that every time we are crossing to Congo, they impose a fee on us. Why is that way? Then Museveni was like, it is time we should stop all this. But Congo defied that statement. They are still imposing, even up now. Those people are still paying that money every time they cross it, and they are complaining. You see, so that's the big problem. It's not only happening between Congo and Uganda. It's still happening between Kenya and Uganda. Travel bans everywhere. So where is the integration? Where is the relationship between these partner states? These are the things we want to do. And who should stop what? Because if Museveni went there and said, no more entry fees, to which capacity did they speak? See, these are the things that we need to weigh. These are the things we need to weigh. As who? These are the Congolese. This is what the Congolese are saying. We know Museveni is the president of Uganda, he's the chairman, he's blah, blah, blah. But for us, we are Congo. Even when
we have our own laws.
We have our own laws. So we need to be educated and get to know what does it mean to have this integration. What is the East African community working on to make sure that it harnesses the trade relationship, the entry fees, and all those problems between the East African partner states?
And one of the members of parliament did mention that these entry fees can actually be used as at least a startup capital for someone's business. You can add that money once you're doing cross-border trade. Because some people actually make over 5 trips a day from Uganda to DR Congo, from Kenya to Uganda, just to do transactions and all that, deliver goods and services. All that happens. And these charges make it even worse if we continue.
It makes it very worse because every time you go, you cross, you pay. When you come back, you again pay. You see. So it's a big challenge. It's a very, very big challenge. And I think the presidents of these partner states need to. It is time they come together and see how they can harness all these relationships and remove all these trade barriers that are still happening. I see no reason why it should be part of the East African community when we are still facing such challenges.
Yeah.
Why would I pay entry fee?
Yet we are a one. It's just more like we are neighbors now.
We are neighbors,
but
we
neighbors
work
who
together.
work together.
Yes. And then last time I did a story which aired yesterday. You see, William Ruto, the president of Kenya, what he was saying. It was like, this is the time we should put a breakage on all the problems that we are facing
And work together.
and work together. We should harness the trade relationship and we work together. But all these problems are not getting away. Then you're saying, where is the missing link?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping to work on tonight. I'm going to meet different MPs, different stakeholders. I'm very sure we could get some people from Mpondwe, those business people,
To give you
to
their
give me their view. I had just called Mukasa Mbide, who happens to be the former East African member of Parliament. Unfortunately, he told me he's getting out of Kampala at the moment, so I think we're going to meet. I'm going to meet him on Tuesday to give us more highlights of these things. What should we do? What should be done? And who says what? You get
Who under which capacity?
under which capacity within the East African community.
And well, surely you do have to watch Smart 24 TV tonight with Business Today, as Peterson Mumbere brings to you a more detailed report regarding that same issue of the East African community integration and how to, what way or what the analysts believe should be done to ensure that such barriers come to an end in 2023. Stick around though, I'll be back with Barija Andrew to analyze SMB weekly topics. Good morning.